What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. Oh man, it feels good to be back. We had a great weekend. Myself, legend in two games, Eric Sancehz pulled up. He came back to New York. I felt like when The Rock be at wrestling, he'd be like, "Finally, The Rock has come back." That's how it was when the legend pulled up, and we got back together. The gang got back together this weekend to do some work and to have some fun. So let me just introduce my co-host, my brother Eric Sancehz, aka Legend in Two Games. What's going on, man?
What's really good, bro? What an amazing weekend we had. The interview with Justin Biggs, you just put the clip out. We had a great time with that conversation with Jess. We did some other stuff. We multitask. We get a lot of work done. And then the culmination. What a night at the Barclays Center. You and I have been in attendance for a lot of sporting events. And I think this ranks up there pretty high, Trip. The
Yes.
energy and the atmosphere, Brooklyn definitely showed out, and Brooklyn made a statement that night as a whole. The fight was great, but I thought the energy in the building, I thought the fans were amazing that night for the fight.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. The energy was so amazing at the Barclays Center, and the main event was so great. It basically cleared out the rest of that BS card that went down. but but we definitely had a good night. We enjoyed ourselves, man. It was good being back out in the city. I seen afterwards, we was outside for a minute. I seen Fabio had a little dust up outside of the Barclays Center. And I'm just like, where did that go down there? Because we was outside for a minute after the fight. So I was a little bit confused, but everybody made it home alive to their family. So whatever, we gonna move past that. But let's jump right into this fight, man. Shout out to Justin Biggs, the champ. He joined us at Bronx Tale Studios this past Friday night. We wanted to do a little preview for you guys for the fight. That's actually up on the YouTube channel right now. If you guys haven't checked that one out, hit the YouTube channel up. It's always good to get some insight from the pros, and Justin Biggs is a champion and he's from Brooklyn, he's from New York, so you got to support that. And he's a family member. Y'all done seen him on here a couple of times and had that back and forth dialogue. So that was a good thing. Um, but in regards to that fight, man, I think we all kind of were a little shocked by the outcome of the Haney Garcia fight, since we all three picked Haney on Friday night. But if you guys look, and I want you guys to go over to the Instagram. I just posted a clip of the sit down that we had with Justin Biggs, where he talks about the keys to
Hmm.
winning this fight for each one of those gentlemen, and he was absolutely right in what he said. He said Devin Haney was gonna need to have that killer instinct to kind of cancel out the initial savage attack of Ryan Garcia in them first couple of rounds. And we got into the fight and we saw just that. We saw Ryan Garcia attacking in them first couple of rounds, going like crazy. And but what we did not see was Devin Haney with that killer instinct to kind of combat that. And ultimately, I think about six knockdowns later, Ryan Garcia got the split decision. But
So
shout out to Justin on that.
shout out to Just, because I thought there was something that he said that was so telling. And I even mentioned it at the time when he used the phrase, Devin Haney's going to have to be willing to go into the fire. And I thought in this fight, officially it was three knockdowns. It probably could have been a fourth. There was one that the ref said it was more of a slip, but in a moment it looked like a knockdown. I had to go back and rewatch the fight, Trip, because I do feel like even in the moment, it felt like there were two different fights that we watched. Garcia was very strong in the first round, and then from round 2 through 6, it was all Devin Haney. Devin Haney was controlling the fight. He was boxing the pants off of Ryan Garcia, which is what we thought was going to happen. And Devin Haney was in complete control. And then for whatever reason, and I felt this way in the arena, and when I went back and rewatched it, I was like, yep, it happened. My eyes weren't lying to me. In the seventh round, Devin Haney decides for whatever reason, I'm just going to plant my feet and go to blow for blow with you. And Ryan Garcia lands the left that is the first knockdown of the fight, and the fight completely flipped on his head at that point. Ryan Garcia gets deducted a point, which I thought was trash in the moment, because Haney was very hurt, and the ref saw that he was hurt, and he was holding on just to stand up. Deducting a point at that time, I thought was bad, but Ryan Garcia overcame all that. But when you look at the scorecards, there were a lot of people mad about the one scorecard that had it as a draw. Devin Haney won, and I went back and rewatched this. So anybody who doesn't believe me, you can go back and check. He won rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9. Devin Haney won 7 of the 12 rounds in this fight. Ryan Garcia going into the 10th round, and even on YouTube, on IG or TikTok, wherever you consume your highlights, when that 10th round knockout knockdown happens, you can see the DAZN scorecard at the bottom where they still had Devin Haney winning the fight 86-83 going into the 10th round. So Haney was still controlling the fight, but for whatever reason, Haney decided, I'm going to exchange, and wanted to prove that he was tough enough to handle it. And then that's when Ryan Garcia's speed and power completely took over the fight. Again, prior to the 7th round, Ryan Garcia had showed very little. In the 6th round, Trip, you remember, they were booing Ryan Garcia because he wasn't doing anything at that point. And then it said the fight completely flipped. And that's to Justin's point of Devin Haney was going to have to stand into the fire at some point, and he just didn't handle it well. And he cost himself, I think, an opportunity to win, because ultimately, round by round, most of the rounds went to Devin Haney, but the knockdowns tilted the fight, and that's what gave the advantage to Ryan Garcia to be able to win. Kudos to Ryan Garcia for saying for doing what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to punish Devin Haney. He said he was going to knock him out. He didn't quite get the knockout, but damn near. I mean, three knockdowns later, he had Devin Haney all over the place in those late rounds of that fight.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I seen that the Facebook, the link to the live on Facebook. I seen a couple of you guys saying that it's not up. I'm trying to fix it now while we're still on live, so it's a little bit more tricky. So just bear with us. You can obviously you can still watch on the YouTube and on Twitter right now. So just bear with me for a little bit while we try to fix that. Let me go to some of these comments. Excuse me. Big shout out to Kyrie Thompson, first in the chat. Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia fight. Just y'all overall thoughts on the fight. Well, we just gave pretty much our overall thoughts, but I do want to comment on what you just said, Eric. You're right. Haney did win those middle rounds, and that's why it was so close at the end, with one of the judges even having it as a tie. Obviously, the point deduction doesn't help Ryan Garcia, and I did see a couple of the slips, so I will acknowledge that there were a couple of slips, and we were sitting and we were talking and saying, "Yo, what is wrong with Ryan Garcia? Like, what is he doing throughout the course of those couple of rounds?" Because like it was aggression. Then it just slowed down. It just started getting weird. The things that he was doing. I mean, he was kind of turning his
back. Yeah.
Devin Haney catch him about 6-7 good times in the kidneys and the ribs before he kind of did anything. So that was a little bit weird. We were kind of wondering, throughout, and we were, we talking to the people next to us, like, this fight is actually very close right now. Ryan Garcia is gonna have to win these last 3-4 rounds in order to really take this fight from Devin Haney. Now I know there was a lot of talk about the Ryan Garcia's mental coming into the fight. I don't know what actually plays into his mentality in the ring, so I can't really speak to that. But I'm just gonna say I thought it was a little bit weird what was going on with Ryan Garcia during the fight.
During the fight, I honestly thought in the 6th round when the fans started booing, I thought Ryan Garcia was gassed. There were points in that round where he wasn't throwing any punches at all. There were points in that round when he was breathing heavy through his mouth. And to me, I thought he's gassed. He struggled to make weight. We know he struggled to make weight because he was 3 pounds over. The day of the fight, he refused to weigh in, which leads to a lot of people wondering how heavy he really was on fight night. And that was one of the other things that when you guys check out the interview with Justin Big, where he talked about it's possible Ryan Garcia could show up on fight night as heavy as 160, 165 pounds. And that's in the clip there as well. So I thought in the 6th round, he was gassed. And like I said, for whatever reason, and I want to go back one more thing too. When I talked about the rounds Devin Haney won, you could make the case Devin Haney won the 12th round as well, because Ryan Garcia did nothing but taunt in the 12th round. He didn't really throw any punches. And so, again, if you're a judge who gave Devin Haney the 12th round, then it's possible that you gave him 8 of the 12 rounds, and Ryan Garcia would have only won the rounds that he got the knockdowns in, and specifically the first round, which makes the scoring interesting there as well. But in terms of his mental, Trip, on my way up to New York, I text you, there was real conversations about whether this fight would even happen because he was so overweight for the fight. Golden Boy has said that they had internal conversations about whether they should even let him fight. Devin Haney ultimately was given the final approval if he wanted to still fight, which he said yes. And I think we got to salute Devin Haney for that because he still wanted to give the people the fight they wanted, even though he's the one who ended up becoming the butt of everyone's jokes now. He could have easily pulled the business move and said, no, you didn't honor the contract, so we're not going to fight. But he said, no, we're still going to get it on. We're still going to give the people the fight. But Ryan Garcia, after all of the antics, the night before the fight, on Friday night, he sends out a tweet that was very telling. And he said, I never worried about making weight because I never was going to make the weight. My goal is to win this fight. And to me, that kind of spoke to, he didn't really care about the belt. He didn't really care about playing by the quote unquote rules. He wanted to be in the best possible shape he was in to win this fight because he has openly talked about how weight drained he was for the Tank fight. He didn't want to be that weight drained for this fight. And honestly, I said it to you after the fight, Trip, he turned into the real life Joker, right? He trolled everyone. He made himself out this villain where everybody wondered about his mental state. And then after the fight, what is he doing? He's shaking his hand like, oh, yeah, I thought I was crazy, right? Yeah, I thought I was bugging out. And he became a fan favorite because of everything he did, because of all the antics leading up to the fight, but then being able to perform in the moment. And I think this becomes his persona now, because for somebody to say, I don't care about the belt, I just want to win the fight, he's basically telling you, like, look, I'm a star in this sport no matter what. Whether I have that belt or not means nothing because I'd rather you guys recognize me as the guy who won the fight as opposed to somebody who's just holding on to a belt.
Yeah, but the thing is, then if we're looking at it from that standpoint, did you really win the fight? Because at the end of the day, there are rules in sport, right? The rule in boxing is that both fighters have to be at a certain maximum minimum weight for the fight, right? So if that's the case, then did you really win? Because what are we saying? Everybody else has to follow the rules in boxing except for Ryan Garcia, and it's okay because it's Ryan Garcia. No, we can't have that.
I 1000% agree with you, Trip. But this is something that we debate all the time between those that are in the know about a sport and then those that are casuals. The casual fans don't care that he was overweight. The casual fans don't care that he never played by the rules. They're more concerned with the outcome. Because I've even had this conversation already with people today where people was like, oh, Ryan Garcia beat the you-know-what out of him. No, he didn't. Because like I said, I can highlight at least 7 rounds of that fight that Devin Haney won. So he wasn't dominated. But if you only paid attention to the highlights, you would say, oh, Ryan Garcia knocked him down 3 times. But look at the points in the fight when he knocked him down. Those were all the second half of the fight. And as I mentioned, everyone, you would be hard-pressed to find anybody who had Ryan Garcia winning that fight going into the 10th round. Going into the 10th round, everyone, even people in the building, even people we were sitting next to, still had Devin Haney winning the fight. So he didn't get dominated. It was timely knockdowns at a point in the fight that it shifted and it tilted the leverage of the fight. And in terms of him playing by the rules, I agree with you. I don't like it because I'm also hearing this narrative now where people are saying, well, should we consider the Tank fight legitimate because he was weight trained in that fight? Well, it's like, well, if you're not going to consider that fight legitimate, I'm serious. This is a real conversation that's being had by people.
That's crazy.
If you're going to give him the excuse, oh, he was weight drained against Tank Davis when they fought, then he shouldn't get the excuse for coming in overweight against Devin Haney. Because he agreed to that weight against Tank Davis. That's what he signed up for. And he abided by those, right? He abided by those rules, even though he knew, hey, I can't really make that weight, but that's what you agreed to. And the same thing with this past Saturday. You agreed to be at 140. You were not at 140. You were heavier. And there's no telling how much of a factor that played in the fight. Because like I said, you can look at him and you could tell he was the bigger fighter. There was real talk that he probably was closer to about 165 pounds on the night of the fight after rehydrating. So there was a significant weight difference. He did not weigh in on Saturday. So that's all speculation as to what he really weighed that day. But he did refuse to weigh on Saturday. That is a fact.
Well, I mean, that could be part of the reason, but then if that's the case, so basically what you're saying is I cannot beat the top fighters in boxing if I abide by the rules of boxing. Right? That's
Uh,
that's what you're saying. And if you're saying
it's
I have to basically disrupt the contracts and everything that we've put in place in order
mhm.
to win against these top guys, then that means you're saying you can't win if we're fighting by the rules of the sport. We've
That's one way to look at it.
of the sport since the beginning of boxing. That's not something that just came in this
Mhm.
year for this fight. There's been rules from the beginning. So if you can't follow the rules and win, then I think that's what that's what you're saying. I can't beat the top guys unless I come in overweight.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. And I also think that it gets interesting if they ever fight again. There are some in the know that don't feel they will ever fight again. There are some people who feel like Ryan Garcia is kind of just going to run with the victory, and
Of course,
I don't need. And you know what?
because
I'll say that.
it got brutal, so he can take
Yeah,
it and run with it.
yeah, right. And you know what? The reason I wouldn't blame Ryan Garcia for that because there was no rematch clause in play. So if Devin Haney had won, Devin Haney wasn't required to give him a rematch either. So if he decides, hey, I don't want to give you a rematch, he's within his rights. And right, and that's to play devil's advocate. I mean, that's what Devin Haney did to Lomachenko, right? He beat Lomachenko and then said, I'm not giving you a rematch. So if that's what Ryan wants to do, that's fine. But it will be interesting if they ever negotiate a fight again because in order for the belts to be on the line, they would have to fight at 140. And it's very clear that Ryan can't make 140. This is the second time in his last 3 fights that he struggled to get to that weight because he struggled to get.
What's the problem?
No, I agree.
I'm saying for Ryan,
Yeah. You fight at 147, or you maybe he's already hinted at possibly going up to 154 to make it happen, to make his next fights there because he feels he'll be more comfortable there. But it will be interesting, this strategy moving forward, because as you mentioned, it is a loophole within the rules. And Ryan Garcia is the A side now. He made himself into a mega star. And again, the casual boxing fan who just wants to see the fight doesn't care about these little details that you and I are talking about. So if Ryan Garcia agrees to fight somebody at 147, but then weighs in at 150, the casual fans will be like, oh, but still fight. But you and I are going to say, well, hey, that's not fair to the other fighter who agreed and showed up at weight. So that will be an interesting dynamic to see how it plays moving forward. He's already said, I sent you the clip, he wants to rematch with Tank. I don't know how much that's really going to happen.
No.
But he's also already told Shakur Stevenson that if he can't get the rematch with Tank, that he's willing to fight Shakur. Again, it will be interesting to see at what weight, because naturally Ryan Garcia is a bigger man, pause, than Shakur is. And so, right, no diddy. He's naturally, stockier. So do they try to fight at 140? Because Shakur just went up to 140. Shakur's never fought beyond 140. And Ryan, to me, is more of a welterweight who should be fighting at 147 or possibly even at 154. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I guess the issue, I don't think he deserves a rematch with Tank based off of what we just saw with this fight. Because are you going to pull the same thing? Because we know you can't beat Tank because you just lost to Tank if you're following the rules. So now are we going to book this rematch against Tank, and then you're gonna purposely miss the weight just so you could fight at a size that you feel comfortable fighting at, a weight that you feel comfortable fighting at. So I don't think he deserves to fight with Tank. As far as Shakur, I would like to see the fight with Shakur because I think we would see something different. But then again, what you just mentioned in regards to Shakur is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You already don't want to be at that weight anyway. So now it's like I don't want to see that fight happen. If that's the case, all right, then go on up to welterweight. Go fight at the weight that you want to fight at, and then let's see how good you are at that weight.
I think ultimately that is what's going to happen. Him and Shakur are going to have a lot of trouble negotiating because even though Shakur is a star in the sport, Ryan Garcia is on the short list of the brightest stars in the sport. We're talking realistically, I know he doesn't hold any belts and people don't want to hear this, but in terms of star power, it's Bud Crawford, it's Canelo Alvarez, it's Tank Davis, it's Ryan Garcia. They really are the biggest names in the sport. And Ryan Garcia, even in this fight against Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia was the A side in terms of the money. When they split the money, it was 55-45. Ryan got the larger share of the pie. And he even tweeted out, he bet on himself. He put like $2 million up on himself to win the fight. But he netted over $25-30 million as the A side of this fight. So any fight moving forward, he's still going to be, unless he fights Bud Crawford at 147, which is a real possibility, unless he fights. Oh my God, who I was going to say? Unless he fights Tank again or Bud Crawford, he's going to be the A side of the fight. And
Yeah.
so for Shakur, the problem is I've got to give in to kind of his demands to make the fight happen. So if Ryan says, hey, we're going to get it on, but it's going to be at a catch weight of 145, Shakur doesn't hold any leverage there. It's either I'm willing to do it or I'm going to walk away from the fight. So I think Ryan has put himself in legit, upper echelon tier status right now as one of the premier faces in the sport. We may not like how he did it, Trip, but we know the casual fans don't care about those little details that you and I are talking about. They want to see the biggest names fight. Even when he fought Tank, I didn't think he was ready for a fight like Tank Davis. But because he has such a name, because he has such a following, we're talking about a guy who's got over 11 million followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's got, there were girls screaming his name at the arena who probably never been to another boxing match, but because it was Ryan Garcia, they're tuning in. He has leverage right now, bro, and he is going to utilize that leverage.
Shout out to the ladies that came out to support boxing.
Oh yeah.
Night. So I got to say that to the ladies. Shout out to y'all ladies for the y'all supporting the sport of boxing. If I'm Shakur, F Ryan Garcia, I'm gonna go fight Haney for that belt.
Well, they tried to make it happen before this one. There were talks. Bill Haney talked about that they spoke with Shakur's peoples, and they tried to make it happen, and they just couldn't come together on a number. And then they moved on to Ryan Garcia. I think that's still a possibility. One of the names that I threw at Justin Biggs that night was Teofimo Lopez, who I'm a big fan of. Shout out to Brooklyn again. Him and Tio, I think, could still get it on. And for Ryan Garcia, I don't know if you saw the clip. There's a clip circulating from Eddie Hearn, who from Matchroom Boxing, the promoter, who him and Ryan's dad was kind of getting into it because Ryan's dad didn't like the fact that Eddie Hearn didn't believe in Ryan or whatever the case may be. And he was like, who do you have next for us? And Eddie Hearn said, I got boots for you. You want boots? And Ryan's dad kind of stood quiet for a second, like, maybe Pitbull. We'll take Pitbull. We don't know if we want boots. Now, either one of those fights would be great. I think, right. But again, boots legitimately at 147, like you said, if you're Ryan and you want to fight at 147, Boots is the number one prospect and the number one contender at 147 because it looks like Bud Crawford, it might move up as well. Bud is positioning himself to try to get the fight with Canelo. So Bud might move out of 147. We know Errol Spence won't be at 147. So Boots is the biggest name at 147. And if you're Ryan and you want to go to 147, you can fight Boots. Or if you want to stay at 140, you can fight Pitbull. And we know Pitbull is he's just that. He's a Pitbull.
Yeah, basically. I don't think Ryan wants that fight with Pitbull.
I don't think he wants to fight with Boots either. So
either one of them. I mean, the Tank fight I think is one thing because that's just gonna be that's the biggest payday that you're gonna get with any of these guys. But after seeing, I think he's kind of picking and choosing right now, and now either one of those dudes, are power hitters. Haney doesn't have that power, so even when there was, I think it was, did he catch him with a left? Because he had rocked Ryan Garcia with a left, and it kind of and he backed up a little bit, but you could tell that was a good one. But that was probably the brunt of Devin Haney's power, and it just wasn't enough to stop what Ryan Garcia was doing, and then from there things just kind of went left. But yeah, I don't think he wants to fight. Realistically, wants to fight either of those guys. I think right now for Ryan is more about just getting the bag than what I'm saying. And I think what's the easiest way for him to look good while getting the bag. And like you said, since there's so many, there's probably more casual boxing fans that don't care about. All right, there's rules to the sport. To abide by them than there are that are like pure boxing fans that is like, wait, hold up, bro. You don't get credit for coming in and winning a fight where you was overweight because we don't know what would have happened if you had actually made the weight for the fight. We don't know what happens because again, as you mentioned, that the fight was still very close and it really came down to those last 3 rounds.
And it was one of the reasons why I mentioned in our conversation with Justin that I didn't like that the fight was still happening because the belt was taken off the line, right? It was not for a championship belt. And I knew it was going to create this type of debate where we were going to wonder, all right, so if the belts were on the line, would we have seen the same performance from Devin Haney, right? Would he have been willing to engage Ryan Garcia as much? Because I really believe going into the 10th round with him winning that fight, at that point, he would have been more cautious and just boxed him and just said, I'm gonna rely on my boxing ability because I know you can't hang with me in this area of the ring. But instead, he stood in front of him, he traded, he engaged with him, and he allowed Ryan. And that's one of the most frustrating things, I think, when Devin Haney looks back at the tape, he's going to say, I allowed this guy to consistently throw this left hand, which he knew was coming. He said leading up to the fight, all you got is the left hand. And yet he kept standing in the way of the left hand and kept allowing Ryan Garcia to land the big left hook. I don't know why he did it. I don't know if it was ego. I don't know if he was trying to prove something that, hey, I can go toe-to-toe with him. But at the end of the day, like I said, it cost him a victory that he had because going into the 10th round, he was up 3 points on damn near every scorecard.
I think he was proving that he could continue to get up off the mat.
I mean, he proved that. He proved that, but that ain't proving much.
Yeah. Shout out to John Lorenzo. I see you, Ryan Garcia bet $2 million on
What's good, bro?
And walked away with an extra $12 million. Yeah, listen, ain't nobody say he wasn't smart now.
Oh, yeah. He played this right. And he said even including that $12 million, he walked away with over $50 million for the night.
Yeah. So I think he kind of made up for the $1.5 million extra he had to give to Devin Haney. But yeah, man. Either way, very entertaining fight. It was dope for us being in the building. Got to see the GOAT. Clarissa Shields was in the building. So we got to see her and Sean Porter. Showtime Sean Porter was in the building. Big Jane was in the building too. Unc was in the building too. So it was a lot of cats was in the building. For that fight. So big shout out to Brooklyn, to the Barclays Center. Shout out to my guy Joe's and my guy Joe over at the Barclays Center. Now y'all know Joe's because Joe's been holding us down at the Barclays Center for a couple of years since we've been doing the 2K tournament. But Joe, that's the new plug over at the Barclays Center. Took care of us, made sure we was good in the arena. They usually take care of us when we at the Barclays Center. Brooklyn take care of us. That's a fact. So I ain't mad at that. Big shout out to Joe for looking out for that one. Shout out to you guys in the comments. We're gonna get into all this NBA stuff, but we got to get, we had to get this little bit of fight talk out of the way. I'm gonna get to this. I'm just gonna do one more boxing thing, because Crawford is gonna be fighting Israel Majamov on his next fight. But Floyd was saying, he was wondering about a possible Terence Crawford versus Benavidez fight, since it seems like Canelo ain't really trying to fight Benavidez. Floyd was saying maybe they should fight each other, and then the winner, possibly goes on to fight Canelo. What was your thoughts on that, Eric?
Benavidez and Crawford?
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing fight. As the old saying goes, styles make fights, and Bud Crawford probably has the best style in all of boxing, his ability to fight right-handed or left-handed against the Mexican monster, a guy who is known to walk you down and continue to come forward. If Bud takes that fight, I would give him a lot of respect, but I would advise Bud to take at least 2 fights at that weight, because going up in weight and having to deal with the power of legitimate middleweights, and in Benavidez's case, Benavidez is a guy who can even campaign as a super middleweight, is completely different than fighting welterweights. And I think that you have to adjust to the type of power that's coming back your way in those fights. I know Bud is an amazing boxer, and I know technically, in terms of skill set, he's a better boxer and fighter than Benavidez. But again, the power of somebody who fights consistently at 165, 168 pounds is different than somebody who consistently fights at 147. So I would advise at least take 2 fights at that weight before you fight Benavidez. And then by then, who knows if it even happens. I think Bud really just wants a Canelo fight and then kind of ride over to the sunset. Bud is already in his mid-30s. That would be like the defining victory of his career and put him amongst the all-time greats. So I don't know if he is willing to try to circle around other fighters just to get the Canelo.
Yeah, I think that's it. Plus, again, Benavidez definitely a bigger fighter. Will be coming down a little bit. Bud, you trying to go up? I agree. You definitely you'd have to take a fight or two.
You have to
get up to that point. So Canelo was a smaller fighter from the jump, so that one's a little bit different. But with Benavidez, yeah, you'd have to get your feet wet and and then get into that fight.
Right. You're talking about going up almost 20 pounds. Again, Benavidez has fought as high as 168.
Yeah, so that's damn near with cruiserweight. I think.
Well, it's a super middleweight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. You would have to, if you're Bud, you got to fight a couple guys at that weight just to make sure, like, I'm comfortable with the exchange, because the power at that level is completely different than the power that you had to deal with at welterweight.
Exactly. All right, let's switch things up a little bit. I'm gonna go to. I think we got a couple of NFL draft questions here, so let me go through these really quick. Shout out to Kyrie Thompson. Chances Caleb is best QB in the draft. I mean, it's a great chance. He's best QB in the draft. That's why he's the number one prospect and most likely going to be the number one overall pick in the draft. I think the where people, I guess, have doubts is because he had a bit of a down year from the year he had previously. But I think he is still the best quarterback in this draft. I think it's clear that he's the best quarterback in this draft. Now it's just about showing improving. And I think he's going to be in a great opportunity now with the Bears, with the additions that they've made. Obviously 2 years ago with Moore, and then now this past year, bringing on Allen from San Diego, and DeAndre Swift, a couple other pieces they added as well. So I think he's in a good position to come out and really just not have the pressures that Bryce Young had on him with basically nothing in Carolina last year.
Oh, without a doubt. I think in terms of what the Bears have kind of put around him already, it's a pretty solid situation. I think, I mean, he was rated as the best quarterback in the draft class last year.
Yeah.
So him being the best quarterback, I think is a high probability. You got to remember, all these other guys have some question marks. Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix are a little older because they're 23, 24, not older in sense of them being old, but in terms of Drake May's 21. I don't think JJ McCarthy is a day one starter. I think Jaden Daniels and Penix need to be in the right situation to succeed. Caleb comes in with all the tools to be successful right away. And when you throw in the weapons that you mentioned, they've got a good chance. And they got 2 first-round picks, so they can add more around him if they choose to.
Yep. I was saying something where I was reading, I don't know if how true this is, but I was saying Marvin Harrison Jr. was trying to drop his stock so he can get to the Bears because I think they have with the 8th pick, I think it is.
I think they're going to try to move back up. Everyone's talking about that Arizona spot at 4 and the Chargers at 5 as teams that might be looking to trade out. I know the Chargers. Yeah. So I think there's possibility that the Bears could try to get back into that top 5 to get Marvin Harrison. I don't care what he tries to do. I don't think his draft stock is going to drop, Trip. He's a guy that probably should go top 3, but he's definitely going to go top 5. So if the Bears want him, they got to find a way to get there.
I'll be honest with you, Marvin Harrison Jr. may be the best player in this draft and could possibly go number 1, but obviously it's a quarterback-driven league, so if you got a franchise quarterback, you got to go get that first.
Yeah, of course. You got to get that quarterback.
Yeah. Shout out to you guys in the comments. Drunk, I see you. Thomas Dimps, I see you. Justin, we're going to get through all these comments in just a minute. We one by one. Shout out to Kyrie McKnight. Should Rodgers want Brock Bowers? Yes. Because I think that's the one position on offense that the Jets do not have one of them guys. Because the running back position, what that young man did this past, and I had him in fantasy football, we good on that. Mm-hmm. The wide receivers, you got Wilson out there. He's one of the better receivers in football. So if you can add a top tier tight end, and Brock it's going to be one of them ones at the tight end position. Absolutely, I think Aaron Rodgers would love to have him as another weapon. The security blanket. We know the tight end is usually that security blanket. I think that's going to help take pressure off of the running game, take pressure off of Wilson, and he's already been explosive his first season. So, I would love that for the Jets and for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Brock Bowers there at number 10 to the Jets. He should be still on the board because we're expected to see probably 3 receivers go in the top 10. We know we're expecting at least 3 quarterbacks go in the top 10. So there's possibility that Brock Bowers is there. Now, if one of those receivers drop, Obviously, we don't think Harrison Jr. drops, but if Neighbors or Duze from Washington drop, I think that's also in play for the Jets to pair somebody up with Garrett Wilson. But another weapon for Aaron Rodgers. They went and addressed their O line and free agency. I think you go get as many weapons right now, and the Jets, as they said themselves, are all in on this season. So why not get someone as polished as Brock Bowers to be your tight end?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I like it for Aaron Rodgers and for the Jets if they could bring him in. Let's go. Kyrie McKnight again. Commanders have the number 2 overall pick in the 2024 draft. Jaden Daniels, Drake May, McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. last week. I'm not sure. Are you asking who they should draft? I mean, I would say Jaden Daniels is the pick at the number 2 spot. If you ask if that's your question, if you're asking who they should draft, I would say Jaden Daniels. I think he is second. If we're ranking them, I think it goes Caleb, Jaden, and then Drake May. McCarthy and Penix, I don't even, to be honest with you, I really don't think they're top 5 picks. It's just that so many teams need quarterbacks.
I think it should be Drake May, though I wouldn't be mad if it's Jaden Daniels because I understand with his skill set that you want somebody who's kind of more of a dual threat and can do different things outside the pocket. The only thing that would concern me with Jaden Daniels again is a lot of times quarterbacks who play at these programs who have a lot of weapons, they don't succeed at the next level. And what we know is the Commanders don't have a lot of weapons. So you would go from Malik Neighbors and some of the weapons you had at LSU to now kind of taking a step back with the Commanders. Drake May is also a little bit younger than Jaden Daniels, so it gives you a little bit more time to develop him as a quarterback. The physical tools are all there. I wouldn't be mad at either one, but if it's me, it's Drake May. I think, first of all, taking JJ McCarthy in the top 15 makes no sense to me. I don't know why anybody would take him that high. And then Michael Penix, I think Michael Penix goes a little lower. Michael Penix to Minnesota makes perfect sense, possibly at number 11. I think that's where Michael Penix lands.
Come on, drunk. Why you doing that for the New York teams? Like, we can't get a good tight end, man. Let me see what else Drunk says. I will never forget for the life of me, this JJ McCarthy being an NFL QB hype. I just don't see it. I mean, I think national championship win kind of gives some quarterbacks that little boost because like they can get the job done. So I think that's more so what it is than anything. Because again, I just said I don't think he's somebody that I'd spend a top 5 pick on. It's just that so many teams need quarterbacks.
Yeah, but no, I just don't see it. You can't have it both ways. He's a guy that we've seen be a game manager at Michigan, and at times they won in spite of him. Not that he was a terrible quarterback, but he didn't wow anybody. He wasn't the reason they were national champions this year. And so to take him that high is almost like you expect him to be an impact player for your franchise. And I just don't see it. I just don't understand the value there. Like I said, I would not entertain drafting him anywhere in the top 15. If you want to take him late first, okay. But if you're a team at the top of this first round who is devoid of talent and is rebuilding, JJ McCarthy just isn't it.
Yep. Let me go to Rich Dre's comment. I know you said Williams, but I'm pretty sure you're talking about Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're going to get a 6th and a 7th round pick, which is crazy to me that you wasted a top 3 pick on this kid and what are we 4 years removed and now you getting a 6th and a 7th. That's it's I don't even know what to say to that. I wasn't a fan of Zach Wilson when they drafted him. And I'm not much of a Jets fan anyway, but I just wasn't a fan of Zach Wilson. I didn't think he was going to be the savior for that franchise, and obviously he wasn't.
I thought the Jets mishandled Zach Wilson from the day they drafted him. It was always known that he was going to need a little bit more time to develop. He only started something like 21 games at BYU, so he didn't have a lot of experience at the collegiate level anyway. But his rookie year, they benched him right away. Then they brought in Aaron Rodgers, and they put all the blame on him, even though I didn't think they ever really brought in an offensive coordinator that was there to develop him. Let's not forget their current offensive coordinator was only brought there for Aaron Rodgers, so it's like you never try to develop the kid either. But I don't know if it gets any better in Denver because Sean Payton historically doesn't have a great rep of developing quarterbacks either. I mean, he got Drew Brees as a free agent. Shout out to Justin for it right there. Yeah. I don't know if you can trust Sean Payton's plan because point to me the quarterback that he's ever developed. And now you're getting a guy and Zach Wilson whose confidence has been knocked down now and who's got to go to a situation in Denver. They don't have Jared Judy no more, right? They don't have a lot of great weapons there. They also go into a situation where you just saw them throw Russell Wilson under the bus. So now you go get Zach Wilson. I don't know how this is supposed to get better for the young man.
Shout out to Drunk. The real story is Sean Payton saying F Russell Wilson, but send Zach Wilson. He just wanted a Wilson. He wanted a Wilson on the team.
Well, but also business-wise, it makes sense. Remember, they were trying to get up under that Russell Wilson contract. That's really what it came down to. They had to get away from that contract. Zach probably isn't the guy this year anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to position themselves to draft a quarterback. And this may be also just be a down year for them where they try to figure it out long term. But Russell not being there is more about the money. They gave him a big contract. They realized it wasn't going to work, and then they had to get from under that contract.
Yeah. All right, let's get over some NBA talks. I see we got a whole bunch of NBA questions we got to get to. Actually, you know what? Let me get my fault. Let me throw Justin's last comment up here. Shout out to Justin. Is Dak making a mistake being a nice guy? I mean, the saying goes, nice guys finish last, but at the same time, if you're Dak Prescott, you got to win when it counts. So I don't think it really matters how nice or how evil you are. What matters is that you're winning when it counts, and that's in the playoffs, and that's getting to the Super Bowl, and that's winning the Super Bowl. You can't you can't keep calling yourself America's team, and you haven't won a Super Bowl in damn near 40 years, and the quarterback that you have is not getting the job done.
I just want to know what you mean by mistake, because he's still going to be in line to get a massive contract when this is all said and done.
Of course.
He's playing this similar to what Kirk Cousins did in the past, where you just keep like pushing it along further and further along, and then you're going to reset the market when you become a free agent. So I think for Dak, it's going to work out perfectly. The real question is, like, for Dallas, does this work out? Because Dallas is either going to find themselves in a position where they're going to have to overpay for Dak, or they're going to have to restart and move on from Dak. And they're a team that talent-wise probably has enough to compete for a Super Bowl, but without a quarterback, you then fall back from one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the NFC. So Dak is going to work out just fine for him. Dallas should be more worried than anything.
Facts. All right, now we can move over to the NBA. I'm gonna take Justin on his next question. NBA playoffs started over the weekend. All the home teams won the first games. I'm trying to think because I usually know, nobody went on the road this weekend. But yeah, I guess all the home teams did win. We had some good basketball. So yeah, I guess the top teams are winning to start this playoff series off. A couple of key injuries though. Jimmy Butler is done. He won't be back in the play. I mean, I don't think, not even if the Miami was to make it to the finals, he wouldn't even be back. So he's going to be out. Zion got hurt in that playing game versus the Lakers. He missed game 1, which I'm actually got to say I was pretty impressed with New Orleans to keep that thing close and only lose by 2 points without your best player, was also one of the better players in the league out there on the court. I was, pretty impressed by them. But yeah, what was your thoughts on the opening weekend?
I would say shout out to Drunk. No, he did not develop him, Drunk. I know you're being sarcastic, but I'm still going to respond. But in turn, when he said Sean Payton didn't develop Taysom Hill, no, he didn't. Taysom Hill was he's still a gadget player. 7 years later, he's still a guy that's still trying to work packages out for a pause. But I thought it was an exciting first day, game 1s on Saturday and Sunday. I mean, we saw some of the younger teams, specifically Minnesota, who gets a chance tonight. Trip, I see you repping for the Twin Cities. They get a chance to possibly go up 2-0 on Phoenix. We got to see how they bounce back. And then we've seen some of the veteran teams handle business. We saw Denver. They're the champs for a reason. And when they tightened up the screws in the second half of that game, they pulled away from the Lakers. We saw Boston demolish the Heat as expected. The Heat don't have Jimmy Butler and they don't have Terry Rozier. So that's a very tough series for them. And I think today and tomorrow we'll see road teams win, because I think game 2 is where the adjustments are really made. And if you have a good coach, you'll find a way to get a game on the road. And some of these series will get more interesting. But ultimately, I mean, I think it's gone the way we thought it was going to go after game 1. and we got to see how this changes moving forward.
We see you, Pool. We got you. We got you at the end of the show. We gonna get to that. All right. All right. Let me go to Ron. Shout out to Ron Charles. Lakers versus Nuggets game one gives us what both of y'all thoughts on what happened. Jokic best player on the floor. LA came out strong and they couldn't maintain that in the second half. Jokic is Jokic. He's arguably the best player in basketball right now, and if he's not number one, he's definitely number two. Um, that's what happened.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not much thoughts to give because, as we mentioned, the Nuggets are just a deeper team. I know we joked about it last week, Trip, but this is why we said if you're the Lakers, you try to avoid Denver because it's just a very bad matchup for them. Yeah. And they're just going to have to find a way to deal with them, and barring some sort of injury or barring Michael Porter pulling a move like his brother would, the Nuggets are just a better team. It's very, very tough series for the Lakers right here.
The matchup. It's a tough matchup. And again, and a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about, the difference in when they were able to beat the Nuggets, they had a couple of 7-footers that were athletic and played defense. That was Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. They don't have either one of those guys. And then when you add in the fact that Christian Wood is out, so that there goes your other big man. Not to
relax. I would say relax.
Let me finish. I'm not to say he could do anything with Jokic, but I'm saying, but those are your bigs. You don't have guys that are defensive athletic bigs anymore that could help you kind of contain Jokic, and you know what I'm saying. So now we're seeing them get exposed. But again, we said this. We said the Nuggets were the team that they're going to be, the favorites to beat the Lakers. They're the team that if they go up against the Lakers, it's like, that's the only team where I'm like, I don't know. So, we got to see what they're going to do. But yes, I do think that tonight every game is a must win for the Lakers against the Denver Nuggets because it's going to be hard to get wins against this team. But they definitely need to try to get game two, try to get some type of momentum, something going.
If they lose game two, the series is over. It's just a matter of time. Their only shot to stick around. They gotta win game two. You lose game two, that means you would have to find a way to win 4 out of the last 5 games in this series. Not to mention, you got swept by the Nuggets last year. You didn't beat them in the regular season this year. Now you would have already lost 2 games. You haven't beat the Nuggets in a year. I don't think if you lose tonight, you have any shot in the series. If you want any shot in the series, you got to win tonight.
Okay, what's going on with Michael Porter Jr.'s brothers? Isn't one going to jail? Yes. One of them had it was a DUI, but I think someone died. I believe if I'm not mistaken. So it was 5 or 6 years. I think it was 6 years. But yeah, that's the one brother, and the other brother, Jonte Porter, got kicked out of the league for betting on games for whatever dumb reason he had to do that. But yeah, that's what's going on with Michael Porter Jr.'s brothers. Pool. Let me come back up here to the top of this section. Okay, let's go back to Ron Charles. Can the Bucks win the series without Giannis? If Dame stay on Dame time like he was in game one, you damn right they can. I remember Halliburton was trying to do the Dame time a couple of months ago. I think Dame might have took a little offense to that because he put up 35 on him, and Halliburton didn't do anything. All right. And this one of the guys that got that spot on the Olympic team over Jalen Brunson. So let's see, let's see how this thing goes. But yeah, if the Bucks play the way they did, where you telling me you're gonna give Bobby Porter's gonna give you a double. Chris Middleton is gonna look like he did 2 years ago, and Dame is putting up 35. Yeah, they can beat this Indiana team.
Yeah, if they're going to get that type of offensive contribution, and also Indiana missed a lot of open shots yesterday as well. For some reason, their offense just hasn't looked good the last 2 months of the season. They were the highest scoring team in the NBA for most of the year, but then they really struggled. And maybe it's just Halliburton, like you said, because Halliburton hasn't really looked good the last month either. But if the Bucks are going to get that type of play from Dame consistently, and Bobby Portis gave him some big minutes yesterday as well, if they're going to get that type of play and the Pacers are going to struggle offensively, yeah, the Bucks are going to win the series. I think things will even out a little bit more. Historically in the playoffs, role players tend to play better at home. So I'm sure when the Pacers go back home, some of their second and third players will knock down more shots and they'll be more aggressive. Game 2 will be big for them though, because they're a young team. This is really their first opportunity in the spotlight. They've got a veteran head coach. So if Rick Carlisle can make the right adjustments, I think the Bucks can get back in the series. I think the Pacers can get back in the series. And for the Bucks, I expect this to be a long series without Giannis. I don't think they're that much better than the Pacers where they could get them up out of there in 4 or 5 games. I think this at least going 6.
Without Giannis.
Without Giannis, yeah. With Giannis, yeah, I would think 4 or 5 games they could win it. But without Giannis, I think this is at least going 6 games. I like the Bucks to win the series, but I don't think it's going to be an easy series.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bucks ultimately get the job done. If you're Indiana, see the problem with Indiana, man, you got to take full advantage of Giannis not being on that court, and they were not able to do that in game 1. We'll see if they can do that in game 2. But yeah, it's going to get a lot harder, even though you're going back home. When it's like, all right, we are losing to this team without arguably the best player in basketball, even on the court. That's a problem. So you don't want to get into that mental state where they done beat you mentally, and then now you know what I'm saying it's really over for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, game two will be an indicator of what adjustments were made, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen there.
I hear you, drunk, but I just don't see that happening. So I can't even speculate if that was happening because I just don't see this Bucks team winning a championship without Giannis playing. Yes, can they beat the Pacers without Giannis playing? Yes. Can they beat the Celtics? Can they beat the Knicks in a 7-game series without Giannis playing? I don't think so. So I can't even get to that point just because I don't see them, you know what I'm saying, making it out of the East without Giannis on the court.
Yeah, the level of competition drastically changes as they move on because even if it's not the Knicks, even if it's the Sixers, that's a much better team than the Pacers team that they're playing right now. So Dame alone, when you're telling me your second best player is Middleton, who drunk, you said yourself, Middleton ain't looked right in the last 3 years. After that, you're talking Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis is like your best players. That team is not built to have a deep playoff run without Giannis. They need Giannis there.
Let's go to Justin's comment. Suns versus Wolves game 1. Man, aka Jordan Jr. put on a show and talk ish to KD. Did he really call KD old ass ninja?
He did.
He did. And he had every right to do so because he let his game speak for himself. And then he was talking, and nobody on Phoenix could do nothing with him. And we're gonna go back and we're gonna go back to the conversations that we've been having all year in regards to this Phoenix team. And a couple of things that we said that we saw in this playoff series. The defense is not there.
Mm-hmm.
Depth is not there. The floor general is not there.
Not there.
And all 3 of those things came back to bite them in the butt, pause, in that game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think the Timberwolves win this series. Now, I ain't gonna say it's gonna be no sweep or 5, but I think the Timberwolves win this series. I gotta put respect on Kevin Durant's name and say Kevin Durant good for at least 1 or 2 wins. But
I think Durant will find a way to get a win in the series. I wouldn't be surprised though if Frank Vogel kind of adjusts the minutes and staggers the minutes. Maybe Bill's the first one to the bench, and then as you Booker and KD start to come on the field, you go back to Bill. But don't be surprised if you see the Suns kind of just go away from some sort of offensive system and say, "Yo, your turn, my turn." Like just let KD and Book just start taking over. I was surprised they didn't put Rudy Gobert in more pick and rolls in game 1. I expect to see them do that more tonight in game 2. And they're gonna have to make some adjustments, but I think the Suns got to play very desperate because the Suns cannot afford not only to lose tonight, the Suns cannot afford to lose in the first round. There's too much money on this team for you to be losing in the first round to an inexperienced Minnesota Timberwolves team. You kind of got to go all out, and this might be one of the situations where you say, F it, KD, Book, we're not even running no plays. Y'all just take over, and your possession this time, your possession next time.
Yeah. I'm going to switch. I'm gonna jump around a little bit, go to Ron comment. Who's the current best 2 guard in the NBA? I think that got to go to Shea.
You got Shea, was a 2 or is a 1?
Well, I guess it's tough because Giddy is also the point on the team too.
Like a
So
point forward, yeah.
yeah, so that's why I would say Shea. Um, but I gotta say Shea. You know, MVP candidate, top 3 MVP candidate right now. And then I guess I would go Anthony Edwards after that.
I mean, if we're categorizing Steph as a point guard, then yeah. If we categorize Steph as a 2, then maybe Steph. What are we categorizing them dudes in Dallas? Because if Luka's the point, then Kyrie got to be the 2, right?
Yeah, see, I'm confused by that whole situation.
Yeah. So that's another one where it's like if Kyrie's the 2, then you probably got to make the argument Kyrie. I still would yeah, because I categorize Shea more as a 1. So I would say probably Devin Booker, Kyrie, and then Ant. I think I like Booker and Kyrie a little bit more.
We're not saying Shea is a 2.
I'm gonna put it more as a 1 because Lou Dort kind of plays more of the 2 for them, and Giddey's more like a small forward / like a point forward for them.
Okay, so then I'll say Book and I'm gonna say Book and Anthony Edwards right now, but depending on how this series goes, I'm gonna change my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna say Book. I'm gonna say Kyrie. To me, you're not gonna have 2 points. Like if Luka's your point guard, then Kyrie's your 2. So it's to me it's Book, it's Kyrie, and then it's Anthony Edwards, and then it gets tricky because Jaylen Brown is kind of listed as a shooting guard in Boston.
Yeah.
Because the Clippers kind of play a smaller lineup, it's kind of the same thing. But for me, Book. I agree, Rich. I got Book, I got Kyrie, then I got Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. After this series, I'm gonna feel differently, especially if he called KD old ass ninja one more time.
Yeah, if he's out playing Book and KD in the series, he jumps up on that list.
Exactly. Oh, now we get to talk about something I know you want to talk about, Eric. As of right now, Embiid and Maxey are questionable to play in Game 2. Which
they're playing right now.
You know what I'm saying? But I think that, and again, shout out to Embiid and Maxey, but I think the talk is about the New York Knickerbockers, and we gotta give the Knicks their flowers right now. I know I've been rough on the Knickerbockers throughout the years, because I'm very much about showing and proving. But I got to give the Knicks their flowers. They had a tough game 1. And I don't want to hear, oh, but Embiid got hurt. No, the Knicks were already up when Embiid got hurt, and he still came back. But I will say this: that dunk that he went out on, that dunk was crazy.
Back. And, I mean, listen, Embiid is phenomenal, and I would be lying to say, oh, Embiid being limited doesn't play a factor. Of course it does.
Yeah.
Embiid, before he got hurt this year, was looking like a back-to-back MVP. Embiid is one of the best 5 players in the league, and however you want to rank him, but he's in that conversation. I still like the Knicks in this series no matter what, because the Knicks have more depth than Philly. Philly's top heavy, and it showed in Game 1, right? Maxey gives you the 33, Embiid gives you 29. Their third best player in Game 1 was Kyle Lowry. I don't think you're going to get many Kyle Lowry games like that anymore.
No.
Right. So if you're the Knicks, on the flip side, Jalen Brunson didn't play well. Dante DiVincenzo didn't play well. But your bench outscored Philly's bench 42-7. Mitchell Robinson did a great job against Embiid defensively in Game 1 with the 12 rebounds and the 4 blocks. So you out rebounded the Sixers as a whole as well. So this is a series about, Philly has those 2 stars, rightfully so. The Knicks have more depth, and can Nick Nurse find a way to outcoach Tom Thibodeau to make up the difference? Because I think over the course of the series, that's what's really going to wear on Philly. Those minutes when they have to sit Embiid, we talked about this during Game 1. I said the Knicks got to go on a run with Embiid off the floor. It's crazy, but with Embiid on the floor, I think there was a plus 15. With Embiid off the floor, there was a minus 22. That really was the difference in Game 1, aside from all the bench points as well. So the Knicks can wear down Embiid and the Sixers. I think tonight is a critical game for Embiid, because I do think at some point, I don't think if this series goes 7, Embiid is not going to play every game of the series. There's going to be one night he's going to sit out. as Justin mentioned, tonight he was a game time decision, and it's only game 2.
If,
So
if anything, if he was gonna sit out a game, it should have been this game tonight.
no, I don't
Because
think they could afforded him to sit out the night.
well, the reason I say that is because these two games are in New York, so at least you take the night off, you come back fresh for at home. Hopefully,
Hmm.
go two, win two and top the series. Because if you play tonight and lose, that's gonna be real ugly for Philly. I do want to shout out the Knicks role players because Jalen Brunson didn't play like the
Hmm.
MVP candidate that he's been playing like this season. He had a tough game. He started putting up points in the second half, started off slow, but two names in particular. You mentioned one of them, Mitchell Robinson, but the other guy is Josh Hart, who just kept hitting big shot after big shot after big shot for the Knicks. So big shout out for them. The whole city yesterday was on Saturday rather was on fire because
Hmm.
you had the Yankees playing in the Bronx, you had the Knicks playing in Manhattan, and then you had the fight going on at the Barclays Center. The
Hmm.
whole city was really lit. There was a lot of money being made on this weekend in New York. All right, let me go to Kyrie's comment. James Harden looked like Rockets Harden in game one. The big question, can he do it a full series? I think the bigger question is what the heck is going on with Kawhi Leonard. After they donate that last roster spot on the Olympic team to you, now you can't play in game one of the playoffs. Give my man Kyrie that spot on the roster and stop playing around, man. I think that's the bigger concern. As far as James Harden's go, this the first round. James Harden do his thing in the first round. Everybody knows that. It's the second half of the second round, and anything further than that, where James Harden does not play basketball. So first round, yeah, he should be able to do it. And again, I mean, you got damn near 4 Hall of Famers on this team. Obviously, Kawhi wasn't playing, but y'all should be doing this. So
Well, that's why they went and got James Harden for these moments like this, so that if you are missing one of your big two, you have enough of insurance policy to, then be able to withstand that. So, um, I think it was a great game for James Harden. I think it was a major, major disappointment for the Dallas Mavericks. They have been coming into the playoffs hot, and they had an opportunity to take advantage of a wounded Clipper team. They did not. And now, like you said, now you got James Harden going a little bit. They buy themselves a little bit more time to figure out what's going to happen with Kawhi. Um, the Clippers, I think, a lot of people on the Mavs to win the series. I think the Clippers showed that not only they might be the better team, they probably the better coach team as well. Because I thought Ty Lue outcoached Jason Kidd in game 1.
yeah, um, yeah, he did. He definitely did. Let me see what else we got up here. Let me scroll back up to the top. Okay. Shout out to Pooh. What up, Pooh? Which player needs to stand on business tonight in all the game twos and sign the could have been records for my man Juicy? Uh well, so here's the thing, right? I would say Joel Embiid. If we're talking about players that got to stand on business, I would say Joel Embiid because you really can't afford to go down 0-2 in the series. You're the best player on the floor, and it's not even close. And I'm talking about offensively and defensively. Defensively, Joel Embiid is the best player on the court. Plus, you got to show improve, brother. You got to stop these little ticky tack injuries and everything else. Like you really got to show improve. This is an opportunity for you. You guys winning. Y'all got the 7th seed, so you didn't have to face Boston in the first round. Not that the playing against the Knicks is that much easier. Because with the depth of this team and the way they've been playing, without their second best player and without OG for a lot of the second half of this season, they ain't no slouches now.
Hmm.
If you're Joel Embiid, you have to show improve. I'm not gonna really say LeBron because it's not like LeBron didn't play bad in that game. It's the same thing with Anthony Davis. They both played well. As far as in the Cleveland and Orlando, they're playing tonight. I seen I'm gonna throw this.
Paolo, yeah,
I seen Paolo, and that's my guy.
that ruined the ticket.
Yeah, I definitely on the ticket. Hopefully he's good and can come back. Um, but then I guess in that series, I would have to say Donovan Mitchell. He got to lead the way on this team. Best player on the court. He got to do what he has to do to get his team to win tonight.
Right now, Cleveland is up 9 in the second quarter, so they're trying to take full command of that series. Um, I mean, I think Embiid is going to do everything he can, as I highlighted earlier. It's just a difference in the depth of these two teams. Embiid is the best player. The Knicks are the better team, and it's only but so much Embiid can do right now. I mean, again, a double double in game one, unless he's going to be going for 40 points every night, it's going to be really tough for him to overcome the fact that he just doesn't have all of the weapons around him. But for me, somebody mentioned it in the comments, there's a guy that was complaining that he was not mentioned as a all defensive defense player of the year finalist. And to me, the pressure's on Anthony Davis tonight. You want to be known as a defense player of the year finalist? Well, then show me tonight against the Joker that you can handle that situation. Because if the Lakers lose tonight, like I said, the season's over. It's just a matter of time of when it's going to end. But it's over if they lose tonight. So if you Anthony Davis and you feel like you should be mentioned among the best defense players in the league, tonight is your opportunity to show it. And if you have a good game against Joker defensively, then maybe we'll change our opinion. But if Joker goes out there and has another triple-double or damn near triple-double against you, then I don't want to hear you complaining about not being mentioned in a defense player of the year finalist conversation when the MVP of this league has had his way with you, Pauls, for the last 2 years.
No Diddy.
No Diddy.
Shout out to Pooh. Stand on business, AD. Get that game 2 win. Still home court and go back to LA. See what you got. All right, shout out to Ron Charles. The Athletic asks 133 current NBA players about the GOAT, and Michael Jordan got 45.9. Braun got 42.1. Kobe got 9.8. You know what? I'm gonna say this in regards to the GOAT conversation, just because I want to put some respect on Kareem's name. I know a lot of the guys that are playing right now are younger guys, so their votes, they're you know what I'm saying, they're gonna vote for the players that they saw or either played with and they looked up to, and that's gonna be those guys, Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe. I'm actually surprised though at how close the voting was between Jordan and LeBron, because 45 and 42 is that's damn near neck and neck, especially when you take into account that LeBron still has, a little bit of gas left in the tank. So I was actually a little bit surprised at how close the vote was.
I'm a little surprised, but not too much because again, we are a full generation removed from when Mike played. A lot of these guys never saw Mike; they only saw him in highlights. A lot of these guys did grow up watching LeBron and now playing with LeBron, and we got to acknowledge his greatness as well. But I mean, I don't know, man. It's so unfair because I feel like we only talk about these guys in terms of like the GOAT conversation. There can only be one GOAT. For the most part, I think most of us do agree that it is Michael Jordan. I'm not mad at you if you think it's LeBron James. Kobe Bryant, like you said, getting 9.8% of the vote is not a terrible thing, but most of these guys never saw Kareem play, right? Most of these guys never saw Wilt Chamberlain play. Tim Duncan, to me, is one of the most underrated players of all time. And a lot of guys forget how great Tim Duncan was as well. So there's a lot of guys that could be mentioned on this list, but the conversation is always going to center around those two guys. And I guess that's something we just got to keep talking about, unfortunately.
Yeah, let me just go back. Justin says, I have a problem with people saying they miss Dwight Howard. My thing was, it was 4 years ago. Jokic is way better now from that bubble, right? Yes, he's way better. And again, because I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think that it's what Dwight Howard represented as far as a big man, an athletic
Correct.
defensive big man. I think that's more so it than the because obviously Jokic is better now because he wasn't when they played in the bubble. Jokic wasn't arguably the best player in basketball, and guys are going to get better as they get into their prime. So I think that's it more so than just specifically saying Dwight, because obviously Dwight would have been older this year, but I think it's just the premise of the Lakers having two athletic defensive big men to where Anthony Davis doesn't have to focus his energy on the defensive end on guarding Jokic, because you have a Dwight Howard, you have a JaVale McGee who can come in and give you 20 minutes. Dwight is giving you 30 minutes a night playing defense. And now Anthony Davis can basically do what he wants to do because he doesn't have the task of guarding Jokic. When you're talking about now when they don't have those guys on the roster, and it's coming down to, all right, Anthony Davis, you got to guard this guy who's a very talented offensive player, who's a bigger guy than you. So you know what I'm saying. There's that. So the energy that you got to exert to try to keep up with Jokic, it's gonna take away from what you're able to do. Whereas again, if you have those athletic defensive bigs who can kind of stay up, and Dwight Howard did an incredible job on Jokic when they played in the bubble. And that's not to say he would do that same thing right now, but in the bubble, Dwight Howard did an incredible job guarding Jokic.
Yeah, it's the thought of just another big and another body that you can throw at the Joker to try to slow him down. So not necessarily it doesn't have to be Dwight Howard. It's just the Lakers don't have that other piece to try to slow him down. And also, let's not forget Denver. Like you said, Joker is better. Denver is a different team because they didn't have Aaron Gordon in the bubble. They had Paul Millsap. So they didn't have this athletic four that could guard multiple positions the way they have now with Aaron Gordon. Michael Porter Jr. was very young at that time. They didn't have Caldwell Pope. Remember, Caldwell Pope was on the Lakers. So
yeah,
right. So the structure of this Denver team is completely different now. And if you're the Lakers, you need more pieces in your arsenal to throw at the Nuggets, and they just don't have that. So it's not necessarily just Dwight Howard. It's just the fact they don't have another big to throw at Joker. They don't have somebody athletic enough at the four to play with Aaron Gordon because Braun is exerting way too much energy on both ends of the court. He's got to deal with Aaron Gordon defensively, and then on the flip side, you got Aaron Gordon, who might be the prototype defensive player to play against LeBron on the other end as well. So again, it's just the pieces. They don't have the pieces.
So why hasn't anyone picked up Dwight? I don't know, man. I didn't watch the tapes of him playing, so I can't really say. But again, Dwight is older now. And then has had his share of controversy over the past year and a half, so that may have played a part into it. I did see he was supposed to be trying out for Golden State. I think it was the middle of the season. He was like supposedly, and so I guess the teams looked at him and they didn't see anything worth signing. Justin, I don't know if it's because I first of all I'm gonna say allegedly because I don't know that man personally to know what's his preference and who he likes. But I mean I would hope that they wouldn't not sign Dwight Howard if that was the case. I hope that's not a reason that a team isn't going to sign Dwight Howard if he's actually able to make it on an NBA roster. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. It's one thing to go overseas and do some numbers over there, but we know and what we're going to see this summer is a difference between playing over there and playing over here in the States and being an elite player over here. So he just maybe just doesn't have it anymore.
I don't think that's the reason. I mean, it would be naive of us to think that he's the only one in the NBA that likes men. I highly doubt he's the only one.
Michael Porter Jr.'s comments on that podcast the other day.
Right. So he ain't the only one that like men in the league. But it's a relationship based business, and as you become a veteran player and you age out a little bit, if you don't have the best relationships in the league, it's kind of tough. You got to have those relationships with coaches and GMs, and you got to be in good standing with a lot of people, and that's really how veterans hang around. That's how Kyle Lowry is able to have the type of career he's had. That's really how Kevin Love is able to have the career he's had. I made the joke on Saturday night when we were watching the game about DeAndre Jordan still being in the league. Again, relationship-based business. So Dwight, I'm sure, still has enough game to contribute, but does he have the relationships in place where teams want to bring him in and they feel he can be a veteran presence, or do they still feel he's the immature guy that, kind of it plagued him early on in his career about just being immature and somebody who didn't take the game too serious?
Yeah, Poole says it's got to be something because no one has picked him. He's almost 40. I mean, again, he's older now.
Right.
It's obviously not. You know what I'm saying? He's not even the Dwight that he was when he was playing for the Lakers when they were in the bubble. He damn sure ain't Orlando Magic Dwight Howard. So, teams look at that and they want to give a spot to a younger player. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, that happens as guys get older.
Right.
Then you being a superstar most of your career, but listen, when it's your time, man.
Right. And it could also be a part of it where maybe he's being selective about the teams he goes to. There's teams that may have reached out to him and he's like, hey, I only want to play for a championship. So
there you go. Justin says, to me, there isn't 5 players better than Magic Johnson all time. Let me see. Kareem, Bron, Jordan. I mean, I got Magic in my top 5 anyway. I still think Magic is the best point guard of all time. So you might, you know what I'm saying? I might agree with you on that one. But you know, with Magic Johnson saying fans.
Supporters, yeah. I mean, based on remember what we did, we did the starting five as opposed to just a singular go conversation, and he is in our top five. We have him listed as the best point guard ever. So I'm not going to dispute that. If you're going to say there's not five players, that's tough. Because I mean, I think Mike, Braun, and Kareem are the top three, and then from there, you go whatever direction you want to go. If you want to throw Wilt in there, if you want to throw Magic, if you know whoever you want to throw in that conversation. But I wouldn't argue with you about Magic being in the top five.
Right. Kyrie Thompson, the MVP finalists were named SGA, Jokic, and Luca. Who wins it? Wasn't Tatum the best player on the top team? He was the best player on his team, but he wasn't the best player in the
I mean,
league. And we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when they played Denver, and we said this was a game where Jason Tatum is going to have to show and prove. These are the stories that the media is going to want to see when you're playing the other MVP candidates. How are you going to do? And they got ran out the gym, and I think that was it as far as the MVP case for Jason Tatum was that Denver game. Now, if we're talking about these three here, um, I would like to see SGA get the MVP. That because that I think if you want to talk about the best player on the best team, you know what I'm saying, this season,
they were the number one seed.
That's what I'm saying. So I would like to see SGA get it. It's tough for me to really unless you have like that Russell Westbrook type of season. It's tough for me to say somebody lower than the 3 seed and just be like, all right, we're gonna give you the MVP. And like I said, unless you have that type of where Westbrook averaged a triple double, but they were in 7. But it's like, all right, we hadn't seen that done in like 30 years since Oscar Robertson did it. So it's like you kind of gotta give him MVP. So I think that kind of cancels Luka out. Then it comes down to Jokic and SGA. I think Jokic is scoring more than I mean SGA is scoring more than Jokic right now. But I think it's going to be a tough race. Personally, I'd like to see SGA get the MVP though.
SGA's been my guy all year, so I would love to see him get it. I think it's well deserved, but it's going to be tough for Joker not to get it. Also, we can't forget that when SGA missed a little bit of time, OKC kept rolling. They were still good without SGA. Now, it wasn't a significant amount of time. I think he only missed about 8 to 10 games, but they still kept it rolling. So that might hurt him a little bit. On FanDuel right now, the odds are heavy in Joker's favor to win his third in 4 years. So I want SGA to win. I think Joker's going to win. That's how it ends off. And as far as Tatum, this goes back to a conversation we had last week when someone asked why isn't Tatum the face of the league? He hasn't done enough yet. He's not an MVP finalist. He's not a guy that people are viewing as the best player in the league or one of the best players. He's a really good player, but I think if you ask most people to name their top 5, I think a lot of people wouldn't name him in their top 5 currently in the league. So it's very tough for him to be the face of the league as well.
Let me go to Rich Dre's comment. We're gonna start running through these because we already in overtime. So we're gonna start running through some of these comments. Maybe I missed it, but to each of you, who's your NBA Finals pick and winner of it all? I mean, obviously, you know, I'm gonna want to say the Lakers, but depending on how this first round goes, that's gonna change a lot. I guess I gotta say Boston comes out of the Eastern Conference. I know that I know you don't want to hear that, Eric, because I know you want the Knicks, and I think the Knicks do have a chance, but I have to pick Boston coming out of the East. And I mean, obviously, if Denver, wins this series, I think everything else they're just gonna go straight back to the NBA Finals. And then if we have a matchup with Denver and Boston in the finals, then I'm taking Denver.
Yeah, playoffs all about matchups. So based on how the brackets are going to shape out, I do think we could get Boston and Denver, especially if Phoenix gets bumped in the first round, because then Denver's path gets a little easier at that point. But I'm not counting out the Knicks because I do think the Knicks can not only win this series, I think they could take advantage of a wounded Milwaukee team in the second round. And then at that point, they play a rival in Boston that they played really well the last few years. So I like, as a dark horse team, I like the Knicks, and I like OKC as dark horse teams. I like the favorites ultimately, but if you ask me, a team that nobody's really paying attention to, or that people aren't expecting to go. I like Knicks and OKC as a dark horse finals matchup.
Okay. Rich Dre, maybe I missed. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, my bad. I just read that. Let me go to this one. Pool. Caitlin Clark on the 8-year, $28 million Nike deal. That's great. Of course. I mean, who? I mean, what can you say to that? Congratulations to Caitlin Clark. Well deserved. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the ladies. You know what I'm saying? Can't say nothing bad about that, man. You gotta love it. All right, let me go to this next one. WNBA question with Caitlin joining, bringing fans. So will the games outside of her fever games have huge increase in attendance and viewers, or just her games will be the big ones? I don't know. There's gonna be increases in viewers across the board. One, you got if the WNBA, and I want to give them respect. If the WNBA is smart, then they are going to capitalize off of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and they're gonna do what the NBA did with Bird and Magic, and they're gonna promote the ish out of that. And I think it's gonna be great for the WNBA if they do that. You got to realize Caitlin Clark was not the only star to be drafted. She's just the person that was I guess recognized as the greatest player right now in college basketball. But if we're talking about star power, guess what? Angel Reese has just as much star power as Caitlin Clark, and she's a national championship. And even more, if you want to talk about those storylines, if you want to make that comparison to Magic and Bird, remember, Magic beat Bird in college right before they both ultimately got into the NBA, and that rivalry continued. And that rivalry actually, I don't know if you want to say saved, but I guess you could say saved basketball. That Jordan versus Bird rivalry saved basketball, so saved the NBA rather. So if you really want to expand on what the WNBA has going, then the WNBA needs to play up this Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. Now I'm not with that whole good bad type of thing. I'm just two great basketball players competing against each other, because we know how they'll try to spin that narrative and make Caitlin Clark the good guy and Angel Reese the villain. So that I'm not with. But as far as just that rivalry and competition, you have an opportunity if you're the WNBA to really expand on your brand with these two. Plus, there's a lot of stars that came out this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the WNBA will do really well this year because you got this incoming draft class that has some star power. And then you had the two finals teams from last year that are labeled as super teams, Vegas and New York. So I think overall the attendance and the viewership will be up. But let's be real too. For everyone who may have complaints about the salaries in the WNBA, you got to go out and support. So you got to get to the games, you got to buy the merch, you got to tune in when they're on TV, because that's the only way that things are truly going to get better. I know Trip and I will be tuned in more often this year, and we encourage everyone else to be tuned in. And I think ultimately Caitlin Clark's impact on the game will be very positive, because people will pay attention to the fever, and then people will also start to look at the schedule and see who else is playing as well.
Exactly. Shout out to Drunk. Playoffs on. I got money on the line. If I ain't screaming at the TV, these cats ain't gonna score. But listen, y'all gonna be on for the NFL draft. Come on, Drunk. We here for you. We got you, man. We only doing the first round because the last year we damn near was up here for 3 hours.
We did the first round last year. We did every pick of the first round. I think this year we're probably gonna focus on like the top 15 to 20 picks, unless there's a crazy trade. We'll focus on that, and then we'll get to the rest of the draft when we circle back on next Sunday. So we'll kind of play it by ear there.
I don't think I got another 3 hours in me.
Nah. Pause. You said I don't think I got another 3 hours in me. Pause.
Oh my God.
You gotta relax. You gotta relax.
Yeah, we seen Paolo being carted off the court. Yep, prayers up for him. Kyrie Irving was left off the USA team, and he said he missed the days when you had to try out for the team. With this team, they seem to pick instead of training camp to make the team. The problem is for Kyrie, I don't think he was going to make the team anyway, just because of all the controversy. Even though he's had a quiet year, I think him being in Dallas, I think has been very quiet. But I just didn't think, because of everything that did happen with the whole issue with the vaccine, and then with the post on Twitter and whatnot, I just don't think he was gonna make the team anyway. But if we're talking about deserving, yeah, there's a couple of guys that could be swapped out that Kyrie should be on ahead of. Um, so you know,
Yeah, I agree. I thought Kyrie was deserving, but we knew the off the court stuff was going to play a major factor. I'm okay with the team, and I'm okay that they didn't have a training camp. We got to be mindful that to be part of the Olympic team, it requires a lot of time during your off season to work out with these teams, and every player is not with that. I mean, it's already a long season. You're telling me now I got to commit a summer of just working out to be part of this team. There's a lot of guys who are going to feel like, why should I have to do that? You know what my game entails, and you know what I'm about. So I'm okay with that part of it. Kyrie was deserving, but I understood why he didn't make it. I would have liked to see Jalen Brunson make the team. Kawhi to be is probably like the biggest head scratcher of this one
yeah,
because he could barely stay healthy during the regular season, and now you're asking him to stick around for extra credit. I don't know how that's going to work for them, but we'll see. Ultimately, it's still a great team that's been assembled.
the good thing is it's not like they needed Kawhi.
No,
You know what I'm saying? So that's the good thing about it. The Knicks, can they make a run? They too to me are a riggy team. Can they make a run where to the Eastern Conference Finals? Yes, absolutely. If that's what you're asking. If you're saying can they make a run to the finals? Yes, it's a little bit more difficult because you do got to get past Boston. But can they get to the Eastern Conference Finals? Absolutely.
yeah. I think anybody can make a run. The Knicks are a deep team. I know everybody wants to talk about Jalen Brunson, but you don't win 50 games with all the injuries that they've had. Remember, Julius missed significant time. Mitchell Robinson missed significant time. OG missed significant time. That's three starters, and yet they still won 50 games and had the number 2 seed. This is a well balanced team that's well coached, so they can make a run. Um, could they come out of the East? Maybe things would have to break right for them. Right now, it looks like they're getting a little bit of luck because again, Embiid is limited. Giannis may be limited come second round, and then depending on how you catch Boston can help you. But yeah, they could make a run.
Let me go to Thomas Dim's comment. Oh Lord, the Lakers have secured the 17th pick in the draft. Please don't draft Bronny. I doubt that they. First of all, I don't think Bronny's a first round draft pick. So
Please, you're right.
doubt that they would draft him with the 17th overall pick. Now in the second round, I would say probably would draft Bronny. Just that's what I've said LeBron. But I don't think with the 17th pick because I don't think Bronny's a first round
No,
draft pick.
no,
Oh,
no way. I mean, if they draft Bronny in the first round, Rob Pelinka should lose his job. They're not drafting Bronny in the first round, and it's very possible Bronny doesn't even get drafted in the second round. He might be a free agent signing that gets put on a two-way contract.
yep. Let me go to Trunks and then I'm gonna go to Pool's comment and we're gonna get up out of here. Can I get y'all opinions on Darius Garland? Advertises scoring PG, but can't score. Looks for Jared Allen every play. I mean, listen, what are you gonna do, man? He's the point guard for the team. He's trying to get his other guys involved. I don't know. Sometimes you can put up 25. Sometimes you can't. You know.
It's all about what that team needs. He's an undersized guard. Donovan Mitchell is their focal point offensively. So for Darius Garland, that's what he's got to do as a point guard because Jared Allen isn't a back to the basket type guy. You got to get him lobs. You got to find ways to keep those bigs involved, him and Evan Mobley,
Yeah.
in order to really make the defense respect what when I say you, I mean Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are able to do. If both those guys kind of just look for their own shot, that team would be far worse than they currently are. He's got to find a way to get those bigs involved.
Exactly. And Pooh, as you requested, we will be ending off the night with your comment for the end of the podcast. Drake put out Taylor Made. Drake on smoke. Tony. Then didn't Kanye come with a diss too? And what's the deal with Chris Brown and Quavo beef? Chris Brown and Quavo been going back and forth for years. Chris Brown being a little bit more of the aggressor in the situation. I posted on my Facebook earlier today though. If you guys haven't seen it already, go check it out and drop a comment and let me know. But I said I love what's going on in hip hop these past couple of weeks. I'm loving all of the diss tracks, but y'all rappers let the R&B dude one up y'all because Chris Brown diss track was better than everybody else, and I think Drake's diss track was tough. I like J. Cole. I like Kendrick and Future, but I think Chris Brown had the best diss track. That reminded me of 90s, early 2000s diss tracks when Chris Brown went in.
It was a good joint by Chris Brown. I haven't heard the Quavo joint that he just dropped. I think like 2 hours ago in
Oh,
response to it.
you ready for the show? We got
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. I haven't heard that one. The Taylor Made joint, I'm not a fan of. That's when he uses in the AI for Pac and Snoop's voice. I just don't like that at all.
yeah.
I think that's super duper gimmicky. Now the push up joint is tough. Drake seemed to want to smoke with Kendrick. Don't get me wrong.
Everybody else.
Yeah, I mean he didn't respond to Ross
He got Adam on 50
on push up.
yeah, he
But
he
that was
got
before Ross dropped. Then Ross dropped the joint after that, where he dropped Champagne Moments. So he didn't really respond to Ross. But you know, I'm all for good music. So as long as the music is good, the only thing I ain't like about Taylor Made, like I said, don't do the AI. That's trash to me. Like you out there using AI of Pac's voice and Snoop's voice. Like I just didn't like that at all. But it's cool. I understand what Drake's trying to do.
Drake's a strategist. So
Yeah, he's just strategic, and I get it, but I just didn't like that part of it.
I seen Snoop commented on it. It was funny watching. So I love Uncle Snoop, man. Shout out to Snoop. And I'm gonna just finish off because this is in relation to Pooh's comment. He talked about the Quavo track, Ron Ron. To Pooh's comment, Quavo in the last 30 minutes has put out a Chris Brown disc called Over Hoes and Bees. We're gonna hear it when we get off the air. We'll let y'all know about that one next week. Eric, final thought.
As always, man, appreciate the love and support. Make sure you guys head over to the YouTube and watch the interview with Justin Biggs. I thought there was some great information that he provided us in terms of preparation for the fight on Saturday. We recorded that on Friday night, so it was after the weigh-in, and it was pretty much our final thoughts on leading up to the fight and what we thought was going to happen. So I think you guys will enjoy that. Tune in this Thursday as we get into the NFL draft, as well as I'm sure there'll be a little bit of NBA talk because by then every series would have had 2 games played, and we'll kind of see where the series stand. And that'll be some great conversation in between the picks as well. Will Gordon, we're going to try to get Will Gordon to join us for the draft show because I have a feeling either he's going to be supremely excited about what the Chargers do at number 5 or supremely disappointed, no in between their Trip. So we'll see how that plays out. But we'll see you guys Thursday night.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Big shout out to Unc Big Gene. I was with Unc last night shooting some stuff with him and Unique from Mecca Audio. If you don't know who that is, if you remember on the documentary and a couple of interviews, Gene tells part of the story when they were out in LA with Big when he got a call from somebody in the feds and told him to vest up. That was Unique. So it was my first time meeting Unique and getting to rock out with them. They got some content coming. I mean, basically, it was waiting on me because I'm the one that got to edit all this stuff up. But they got some stuff coming, so be on the lookout for that. And Big Gene chefed it up last night. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, Eric. I posted in my story on Instagram, but Gene had a whole spread out there: lobster mac and cheese, steak,
Yeah.
chicken. Gene, yo, I'm telling Big Gene can chef it up, man. Y'all better get on it, man. We gonna have to have Gene throw a barbecue this summer or something and invite y'all out to the crib so we can y'all can try some of Big Gene's food. But shout out to Big Gene. With that being said, make sure you guys are following us on all our social media: Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk. Subscribe to that YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/For the Fans Productions. And again, apologies about tonight with the Facebook Live. I'm going to work on that during the week so we can get back, be back good for Thursday night. Broadcasting on Facebook as well. And of course, if you're not in the New York City area, you can't watch with us on Thursday nights on Verizon 43 from 8 to 9 p.m. Don't worry. All you got to do is go to that website, realfansrealtalk.com. Click the red button on the homepage, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. And shout out to my guy Heck over at Bronx Tale.
Oh yeah, man.
Studios. He held us down, and we're gonna be doing some work with him over the next couple of months as well. So big shout out to Heck and the whole Bronx Tale Studios family. With that being said, oh my bad, sorry. Make sure you guys subscribe to 2 of the best podcasts out here, the Sanchez Show and the Real Fans Real Talk podcast, streaming on all major platforms. Now, with that being said, for myself, Trip Young, my brother, my co-host Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in 2 Games, we up out of here.
See y'all on Thursday. Lock in.
Sir.